Gun Freak Nation, it's the president, TElectrik. I wanted to talk to you guys about, you know, preventing home invasions and possible, strategies you can employ to make it hard for a home invader. Savages. I like to call them savages because they tend to no longer just break in your home just to take your valuables. They actually want to do horrible things to you and your family. Now, I'm getting, reports from Gun Freak Nation members in Texas that we got, a criminal element. Never mind the criminals, that's the American criminals, but I'm getting reports from, Gun Freak Nation members in Texas that they having an issue with illegals crossing the border still, and it's a lot of home invasions and break-ins are happening. It's like since Trump has cracked down on all that, the wide open border, he's closed the borders and deporting them. They still managing to get over and cross over, but instead of trying to stay into the country, they're doing break-ins and home invasions, and then basically coming over, robbing and running, a hit and run, pretty much. So it inspired me to do this video. I would say I would say lesson one, well, strategy one is make it hard for them. Don't have your house so easily accessible that somebody can just walk up to it and, without tripping off alarms and, just kicking in your door and coming in and do harm. A lot of people I know, they got their firearms, but they don't have early warning systems like alarms and, proximity alarms, protecting their perimeter. You have to have different layers of, if you really want to be secure, you have to have different layers of security. And a lot of people have a dog. Some people, I suggest, there's no I don't have any issue with people having a dog. Unfortunately, in most cases, when a person have a dog, that dog usually, be the first, casualty, because they usually unalive that dog. Also, you have to, I suggest that you have to put your have the mindset of that home invader, that savage, right? The home invader. I say that you go outside in the morning, uh, the evening, and at nighttime, and you walk around the perimeter of your home. Okay, look at it from the home invader's perspective. You know, um, is everything, do you have any blind spots? Is everything lit up in the right area? If I was a home invader, what path would I take into trying to break in your house? Would I try to find a blind spot? So you got to look for the blind spots. If you have, a fence, or, a bush, or, trees, bushes, or whatever, make sure that immediately around your yard or whatever, make sure that they not high enough where somebody can just hide in the shadows. You feel me? So you got to look at it from okay, if I was going to break in my house, and I know that makes no sense, but you got to put your mind, have the mindset as the home invader, right? What would you do? What direction would you go in? And look at it from that perspective, and then just reinforce it. Make it as difficult for them to assess your home. I highly recommend the Ring doorbell because it's all in one. You got night vision. You got perimeter protection. You can set up your own perimeter, and if anybody breaches that perimeter, it's going to, your alarm is going to go off on your phone, on your chime. It's going to let you know. So you got night vision, you got perimeter, where anybody break that perimeter, it's going to go off. It has a intercom where you can talk to the person if you see the person on your porch or whatnot, or you can speak to them. It records the video. You get so much for so little, So I highly, if you don't want to, and forgive me for all this coughing, man, the allergies, man. Summertime, I get it the most. But back to what's important. Get you an alarm system. Get you a camera system. Get you some type of backup power source, like a power brick or something, because I've heard from that I've heard of them even pulling your electrical meter, because let's be honest, these savages, these criminals, home invaders, they are very smart, very smart. So get you some type of backup power source where you can, if your power get pulled, I have a device where it can last up to 6 to 8 hours, and you can run pretty much anything on it. So have a hub set up, plugged into, so if your power ever go out, you got backup power. Okay. Also, most definitely reinforce your windows and your doors. Okay. Also, in your home, have a panic room. If it hit the fan, right? If shit hit the fan, have a predetermined location in your house, a room, a safe room that you can go in, barricade yourself, lock it. And if anybody breaches that door, then you know what to do. Okay? Because if they're going as far as trying to kick in that door, they definitely want you. So you got to have everything planned out. Set up a fatal funnel, which is a particular area that if anybody come down that hallway or come through that door, they crossing the red line. They actually crossed the red line when they was stupid enough to break into your home. Okay? But it's one of the most challenging, most scariest, most difficult, frightening situations you can be in, because you got armed strangers, and in some cases, it's probably people you know. That's what's crazy about it, right? But we don't want to have to take a life, but we got to put that threat down, because it's either your life or theirs, and we don't want it to be ours. We're not bothering anybody. We're not out there keeping up trouble and just causing chaos and disorder, right? But the criminals, they pick the time and the choosing of the time that they choose to attack you, to attack your home, and but like I always say, they got the advantage because they picked the time that they're going to try you. But they don't have control over how we're going to respond. And, you got to meet force with force. You got to meet force with force. If they break it in, if they don't made it through all your layers of security and they get in, that should tell you that they determined to get in your home and do harm to you. So you got to arm up. A lot of people, I know a lot of people, oh, I'm secured, man. My house is like Fort Knox, ain't nobody getting in, but you don't have a gun if in case they do get in. That's essential. You need that gun. You got to have that gun. Without a shadow of a doubt, you have to have that gun. You got to match. You never want to be in a fair fight. And in some cases, the criminals, man, they got high-powered weapons. AR-15s, AK-47s. So therefore, you don't never want to be put in a situation where you are outgunned. There's nothing wrong with having a handgun because anything is better than nothing. But you need that handgun to get to your long gun, right? Your rifle, your shotgun. They don't play fair, and you shouldn't play fair either. This is why I suggest that you have a handgun and that you have some form of a long gun, whether that be an AR-15 rifle or AK-47. Me personally, I would recommend an AR pistol, AR pistol, or an AK pistol with a brace on it. It depends on your living situation. If you got neighbors or you are in an apartment, I understand a handgun with hollow points, which is a self-defense, munition. You would need that for sure, because you don't want to overpenetrate the drywalls. You don't want to overtrade and hit anybody innocent, because even though you are the one that's being victimized and being attacked, pretty much, the law is crazy, and every state got laws that's sometimes that I'm not going to say sometimes, most of the time that's stacked up against the victim. Somebody breaking your house, they shooting at you, they happen to turn and run, but while they got their back towards you, they could be still trying to aim at you or just shooting blindly. You got to put that threat down. But if the autopsy report come in that they was, hit in the back, you got questions that you must answer, and they got it out for law-abiding citizens so bad that they would try to lock us up and say we guilty, And I'm not saying don't be trigger happy and just going crazy like it was a attempted break-in in someone's detached garage that happened here like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, right? It wasn't no threat to the homeowner. He chose to go out there and confront them, and when they tried to run, he shot at them, and now he's about to be arraigned. He's about to be charged because you cannot use deadly force over property. At least here in Michigan, you cannot do that. You only can use deadly force in a self-defense situation. When somebody is threatening you with, deadly force, that gives you the right to respond in kindness with deadly force. So I just need every one of you to just take this serious. Just because you're in a nice neighborhood does not mean that you are safe, because you're not. There is no more safe neighborhoods or safe areas. You always got to keep your head on a swivel no matter what. And that's 24/7. You know, so even when you're sleeping, have that Funky Town sender close by. But anyway, Gun Freak Nation, I love y'all. I want y'all to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's grow the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit that share button. Let's push this video out because so many people need to hear it, man. So many people got their heads in the sand and they don't really know. They're oblivious to what's really going on in the world. And unfortunately, they are sheep. And when that big wolf come, they're not going to be ready. Anyway, Gun Freak Nation, listen, I need y'all to stay armed. Stay responsible with your firearms. Stay righteous. And send them to Funky Town. If that devil, if that savage ever try you, send them to Funky Town. Salute.